This is Fans on the Run, a podcast made by, for, and about Beatles fans. And now, here's your host, Alexanian.
All right, hello. Welcome back to Fans on the Run. Best served chilled with a slice of lemon and garnished with mint. How are you today, invisible void of audience? Good, me too. Man, this is fun. I feel like we're building a real connection here, audience. The sun is... I was going to say the sun is bright, but the sun is not bright. The sun is in the sky, though. That is as much as I can say for the weather. It was nice and snowy a couple days ago, and then the snow was gone, and now I'm sad again. But, c'est la vie. This is, again, I start my shows all with a little delusional ramble. This is the status quo. Or status quo. I don't know. Again, if you listen to my show, you also know I don't know how to pronounce anything. But, I digress. We have a fantastic guest for you today. She's an author who, among other things, has written the Recipe Records series of music-themed cookbooks, which I'm not just saying because she's here, but I've actually tried a number of the recipes, and they are... You can't see it because this is an audio podcast, but I just did the little chef's kiss thing. So take that as you will. As well, she is the co-host of She Said, with a friend of the podcast and my personal friend, Jude Sutherland Kessler. Lanea Stagg, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Ethan, for that lovely introduction. I appreciate it. And that is the top of the line for compliments. Thank you.
Well, they are good.
I know, right?
Although I have to admit, it's kind of the first thing I do with all cookbooks. I go to, if there's a dessert section, I kind of go to the dessert section. And you did not disappoint with the desserts.
Why, thank you. Thank you very much. I always go straight to the appetizer.
Oh, that's the second place I go.
Yes.
the I've got blisters on my fingers' wings.
Oh, yeah.
Ended up turning out quite good.
Absolutely. And the Savoy truffles in the dessert section are one of my favorites.
Again, out there, this is quite early for a plug, but we're already talking. If you don't have these cookbooks, I urge you, if you enjoy food, go get them. It is too good for you not to.
Thank you very much.
So, how are you doing today?
Hey, I am doing great because I get to talk about the Beatles and with my new friend from Canada.
Oh, and you're my new friend from...
I live in Indiana.
Indiana.
Yes.
I knew it was somewhere in the States. Well, it's been a while since I've been to the States. Not quite sure why, though.
And you're located in Ontario, correct?
I am located in Ontario.
That's right.
So, I want to ask you first. This is going right into the interview thing, whatever it's called. I don't even know if it's an interview. I've done almost 50 episodes of the show. I'm still not even entirely sure what the show is or is about. I still just kind of wing it as I go along.
Well, we're just on the run.
We are. And again, shout out to Ricky Glover, because I feel bad every time I use the name, because I kind of stole the name a little. But again, I digress. Lanea, how did you first discover the Beatles?
You know, I wish I had this very romantic, memorable story to tell, but I truly don't. I do remember hearing my dad walk around the house. We had a couple of Beatles 45s that I would play. And then...
do you remember which 45s they were?
Yep, Baby, You're a Rich Man.
Oh.
I don't know what was on the flip side. I think we still have...
That was All You Need Is Love.
Is it? I don't remember. Yeah. But I remember having that. But I remember my dad, he would whistle once in a while. And oddly enough, he would whistle paperback writer. Just that little earworm would get into his head and he would just all day long. You would hear that. So I do remember that. And basically, I think in my life, I just felt the Beatles were like just the foundation for all music. It was just always there. All
They were
the
ever
music
present.
was just grew because of the Beatles, and I don't know how I knew that, or I could hear that, being listening to other forms of music and rock and roll, and I always had my favorite bands in high school, and it was never really the Beatles, but I just felt like the Beatles were just you patently loved the Beatles if you loved music. You had to. So they were just the foundation for me, and so I never really owned like their albums or anything when I was a kid growing up, or none of that. I don't have any exotic stories, but I just remember them always being the foundation.
Well, I always ask this, even though you just kind of said you didn't, I still have to ask, what was the first Beatle album that you remember owning?
Oddly enough, I did not have any Beatles albums. The first, I guess it would have been a CD that I owned for the Beatles. And it was their one collection with the number ones,
Really?
all of the number ones. And I bought that, and my children were little, and we would listen to it all the time, and they loved it. They started, they could sing all the Beatles songs. So the next thing I bought was not Magical Mystery Tour. I think it was the Yellow Submarine. Was that an album? It had
Yeah.
Hey Bulldog on it. That's they loved that Hey Bulldog.
Oh, yeah.
And so such a kid song.
Yeah.
But that
Well, that Yellow Submarine album, either the song track or the actual album itself, it's good for kids.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's like All Together Now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say It's All Too Much is particularly a kid's song.
Right.
But you have All You Need Is Love, all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah. So I really was not so much into the fandom of the Beatles, prior to being an adult. Now, when I got older and after that, during that time period, that's when I started to rediscover the Beatles and to really appreciate their songwriting, their how they grew in innovation when they would, keep upping the bar and creating a different sound, and then everyone copied them. And so it was more in my adult years that I started getting into that. And I was always when I was young, I always loved Paul, and then I figured out, well, John was really writing the better songs, so I would love John. And
Now I can see why you and Jude became such good friends.
yeah, but then I evolved into a George. So
Yes. True intellectual.
yeah, George to me is the ultimate. He didn't have any BS with George.
I can't say any opinions. Well, who the hell am I kidding? I host the show. George is my favorite.
I knew there was a connection for us.
George is my favorite Beatle.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, were there any other songs written by the Beatles about desserts? No, it was just George who did it.
Right, apple scruffs. I have an apple scruff cake in my book. It's
I still need to try that one.
And it's a delightful recipe. It was my mom's recipe. So, but the one you would like also is Strawberry Pie Forever. And Jude Kessler gave that recipe to me to put into the book. It was her mom's strawberry pie, but I give you a big warning with this recipe. You better make 2 of them because you will eat one. And I have literally eaten the whole strawberry pie. You know how you take out a piece and you think, oh,
Yeah.
that's really good. I'll have another piece tomorrow. And then like 2 hours later, you go in and have another piece. And then by bedtime.
2 hours? What are you talking about? It's like,
Well,
oh, I'm done the piece. I go back and eat the cake. Yeah.
It's heaven.
I just realized I called it a cake. It's not a cake, it's a pie. But I love strawberry pie.
Oh my goodness. It is heavenly, absolutely heaven. And whenever I was writing the cookbooks, it seemed to me in, my adult life that a lot of cookbooks have recipes with a whole bunch of instructions, a whole bunch of ingredients that you can't afford and you're not going to use again. And I wanted to make sure that if someone's buying my book, they're going to have recipes in there of very, very, I can't think of the word, recipes that are
good.
They're delicious, but they're not hard to make, and they aren't going to cost a lot of money to make them as well. I'm very, very cost conscious at my house, so I like for things to be a good value. Anyway, but the recipes are a beautiful product too. Once you make them, they're very lovely. And now I don't know, the one recipe that I might regret is the vegan wings that I made in tribute to Paul.
Please elaborate.
Vegan wings, no dice.
No dice.
No, actually, I think that the recipe.
Well, you said no dice. Now you need to make a Badfinger cookbook.
Oh, absolutely.
Baby blueberry crumble.
Ooh, that's a good one. I have lots of blueberry recipes. Anyway, so the vegan wings, actually, I shouldn't say that they're not terrible. It was a recipe that was contributed to the book because I couldn't find a recipe for vegan wings. So,
Yeah.
I'm not a vegan.
I mean, if there's only one recipe out of the book that you regret, like that's still a good book.
Hey, absolutely. I can pick up any other cookbook and maybe pick out 1 or 2 recipes that I like, and then the other 40 are junk. So
Yeah.
This has got 49 solid recipes, like number 1 hits.
Yeah. No pun intended. Actually, yeah, pun intended. That was a pun in
a pun, little darling.
Oh man. Fans on the Run has a complicated relationship with puns. Some days I'm like, I hate puns, I want puns to die, and then other days my brain's just like, puns. But so I wanna go back to this. You've been, I don't want to say a casual fan, up until you got the 1 CD. How did you I'll say devolve further into a Beatles fan like you are today?
Well, I think.
Notice how I said devolve.
Yes, I did. I noticed that. I think it was just a matter of my growing up and beginning to recognize the strength of the Beatles. And I spent a lot of my, I don't know, I always loved music. When I was a baby, my parents put a radio in the crib next to me because I would get up all night, and so they were the kind of parents that weren't getting up, so they would put a radio in the crib, and I even through college, every night I couldn't sleep without having a radio on when I slept at night. And I think all of this music just subconsciously seeped into my brain. And so
And I'm curious, what kind of stations would your parents put on?
it was a station out of Chicago. I can't think of the letters at the moment, but
Not WLS.
yeah, I can't remember. It's been a long day,
Yeah.
but it was, I think it might have been WLS. So I would listen to that every night. And so all through high school and, and I had all of these, I was a huge Kiss fan.
Oh, so
And,
you were a member of the Kiss Army.
I was too cheap to join the Kiss Army, but I've been to 12 Kiss concerts. Love Kiss.
Well, I'll ask now, who's your favorite member of Kiss?
Peter Criss, hands down.
Ah, yes.
Peter Criss, drummer. He is a
You
huge,
have an affinity for the Catman.
yeah. He is a huge, huge Beatles fan.
Is he?
And yes, and that's what during my adult life, I started to notice how really accomplished musicians gave their appreciation for where they were to the Beatles. Dave Grohl with, Nirvana, Foo Fighters, all of these really outstanding artists attributed their success to listening to the Beatles.
I actually learned something cool last night. Do you know the movie Backbeat that came out in, I think it was like the mid-90s? Apparently Dave Grohl played the drums on the soundtrack.
Yes, I think you're right. I actually saw that movie at Jude's house a couple of years
Really?
ago. Yes. And she pointed that out. She knew that and pointed that out to me. He did an acoustic of Blackbird that was really beautiful. And I think there's a video out there of him. He taught his daughter how to play Blackbird. But he's a huge Beatles fan. And
Well, he played at the Beatles Grammy celebration. He was at the White House when McCartney got his, what do you guys call it? Gershwin Prize?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Who knows?
It sounds fancy.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I think they gave it to Led Zeppelin one year too.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I don't know. It's definitely my adult years whenever I started to really take a deeper look into the Beatles, and I read some books about the Beatles. There was Philip Norman's John Lennon book, and at the time when I was writing that first cookbook, my best friend and I were writing it together, and she was blind, so I would call her up at night, and she always had trouble sleeping. So I would call her up at night, and I would read passages out of that book to her. And
Out of the Philip Norman John Lennon book?
Yes. And this was before I knew Jude. And so we would, do lots of research into the Beatles, and we really, really got very immersed into the love of the Beatles.
And the mythology.
Right. And mystery.
And mystery. Magical mystery.
Yes.
Again, pun intended. See, again, my brain's not working, so I feel the need to point out any time I say something on purpose, say pun intended. It's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. That's kind of obvious. Oh man. Let me try and be a little more coherent. Okay. Yeah, you hear it all here, for folks. Yeah. Oh. Okay. So, I want to ask you now. My voice is getting quiet because this means this is a deep question. What do the Beatles mean to you, personally?
The Beatles as a group mean that anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Anything is possible, but also, if I can, in my little blonde logic, meaning everything is possible and nothing is possible. All four of those men, young guys, young boys, they had talents, and they had a future ahead of them, but it wasn't going to be anything unless the four of them connected. If there had been one missing, one of those guys out of the four, there would have been nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And because they all four came together, that in my mind is a miracle. So, like, anything is possible. I often, in all the readings I've done over the years, I've, beyond accepting that they were a miracle in my mind, the work ethic that they all had always amazed me. And whenever, a lot of days, I've had a lot of hard days working a job and, doing all these other different activities, raising children and everything. And I would think, and writing books and trying to sell books. And I would tell myself, okay, the Beatles were doing 10 shows a day when they were in Germany. They were not, or 10 shows a night. They would sleep in a bathroom with each other. And so why am I whining that I haven't even worked a tenth as hard as those guys have worked? And I think that is something that is lost on a lot of people, because I do think there's a lot of artists today that are very popular, and they had to work their tails off, but they make it seem like it just happened. And the Beatles, they were very hardworking guys, and they didn't, no one had really had this kind of fame and fortune like they had. But I don't know. I think they some of them loved it. Paul, of course, loved it. Still loves it.
Yeah.
George never loved it. George said,
No.
even when he was, in his 30s, he said, I was in the Beatles for 8 years, and I'm 35 years old. So there's 27 other years of my life that I've done something else besides the Beatles. The Beatles were a very small part of my life. So, but, I'm really just kind of rambling on, and I'm not.
Yeah. No,
I don't even know
rambling's
if I
good.
question. I don't know if I answered the question, but they were very. They still inspire me whenever I'm writing.
I get exactly what you mean, though.
I'm thinking, I've worked so hard and I don't get anything. Well, have I performed 10 shows today and slept in the broom closet? No. And they did that for months. They sacrificed, and they worked really hard. It was not, it wasn't an easy trail. So.
Well, I also want to ask, do you have any particular memories that stand out that, are fond memories that involve the Beatles music or the Beatles in some way or another that, come to mind?
Well, when my daughter was in second grade, I took her to it's called Abbey Road on the River. It was one of the first Beatle fests that they had in the United States, like outdoor fest. And it was in Louisville, Kentucky. And I took her, and we had a great time, but, a second grader, she kind of,
Yeah.
lost interest after a while. But then the next year, my best friend that we wrote our book together, Maggie and her niece, and my daughter and I, all four went to Abbey Road on the River. And we went for about 8 years in a row. That was our thing to do. That was always our thing. And we had really unique experiences while we were there. It was really fun because the first couple of years we didn't have our cookbook. And so we would meet Bruce Spicer. We would listen to, all of these other authors. And, one year we went and there was a guy that had Ringo's drum on display and John's glasses. And we all got to put the glasses on. No one was in the room, and he let us put the glasses on. And it was
Really?
like, wow, this is a magical moment. And
Wow.
so we met Pete Best, and we just had all these really, really wonderful memories from being at that Beatles Fest. And that's it's kind of bittersweet now that Margaret's not with us. And but the Beatles have a very, very strong, important bond for the girls and I. I'm still, we're still extremely close. The three of us wrote and published a Rolling Stones cookbook a couple of years ago. So that was, that was good fun as well. But there's just something to quote George about the Beatles.
There you are with the puns. No wonder you've written so many cookbooks. So,
it was fun.
Well, I want to ask, what gave you the idea to write a music-themed cookbook in the first place? Like, what was the genesis of that idea?
It was Maggie. She, like I say, she had lost her vision. She didn't sleep at night. And so she was kind of always a mess. But the four of us always went to shows together. We went, to, Broadway shows. We went to bluegrass music shows. We did all kinds of things. We stayed at the George Harrison's sister's house, which was a bed and breakfast in Benton, Illinois.
Louise?
Yep, Louise's house. And we did all of these things together. And so I told Margaret, I said, we got to come up with a way to make some money using all of she had been a DJ, a really prominent DJ in St. Louis. And so we knew a lot about music. And
actually, now that you mentioned St. Louis, I would like to make a public apology on the show for mispronouncing the city name, because I'm Canadian. There's a lot of French here, so I have noticed myself on occasion say St. Louis a lot.
I think St. Louis sounds exotic. I like it.
Yeah. So I would like to apologize to the people of St. Louis.
I'm sure that they will accept your apology.
I hope so.
So Margaret called me one night and said, okay, I've got an idea for something. Well, this was back in the day when blogs first started. And okay, so we're a couple of girls that don't know much about the internet. We just kind of know a little. And I told her that I heard if we write a blog, we can make money. So we started a blog, and because we have a lot to say, and but then it was like, where's the money?
Yeah.
So when that didn't work out, she in the middle of the night, we'd just been talking about different ways we could make make money and use music and what our writing and what we know. And she came up with the idea. She said, what if we, because we both love to eat, and her family, her family ran restaurants. And she says, we know lots about food. What if we have a rock and roll cookbook and we name the recipes after songs? And they were, guac like a man, or, you say goodbye, I say jello. And
Guac like a man.
yeah. Or
That's...
I fought the slaw and the slaw won.
Oh my God.
They're great. They're super great. And so that is how it started. And we would get together and we'd listen to music, or we'd watch videos, and we always loved watching the concert for Bangladesh, and then watch the concert for George. And George was her favorite too. So we would always fight. When the four of us would go somewhere, each of us had to choose who was our Beatle. And so my daughter would always choose Paul. Margaret's niece would always choose John. And then Margaret and I had to fight over George because nobody wanted Ringo.
Who usually won in those arguments?
I always let Margaret. I'm always the one to just give in. So I said, okay, you can have George. I'll take Ringo. But my mom, oddly enough, she would say, well, when the Beatles first came here, Ringo is the one that everyone was in love with. And I find that really fun and cute. I don't know why they wouldn't love Ringo. I'm joking when I say that. But, he was behind the drum kit, and you didn't see him very much. But
yeah, that's Sir Ringo to you.
That you are absolutely right. And hey man, he's like 80 years old. He has all my respect. So, but no, I would become Ringo, and the other girls had everybody else.
So, you seem to be a bit more of a Beatles fan than anything. What led you to the Stones cookbook? Was it just the logical next step?
Actually, the springboard for that would be my husband gave me Keith Richards' autobiography for Christmas one year, and I read it with so much delight. It was so terrific. He has a very witty sense of humor. He is hilarious.
Of course.
And, I don't know how he's still alive. And
oh no.
I don't know.
He's going to outlast us all.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's a robot. But
I've just been on a Rolling Stones kick lately because they're doing this exhibition that they've been doing for like the last, I don't know.
I wanted to go to that.
Well, they're starting it up again, and this is fate, let me tell you. The only Canadian stop on their new exhibition tour is like my sister city.
Yeah.
And it's not even like the big city in Canada. It's not even the big city in Ontario. So you would think it would be in Toronto. It's like, okay, it's not. Okay, then it would be in Hamilton. No, it's in Waterloo. Actually, no, it's in Kitchener. And so we got the tickets even though it's a year away.
Wow, that's awesome.
We just learned the mistake from the Bowie exhibition of not getting your tickets in advance.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to keep me posted on and share some pictures with me, because I will. I would like to go see that too. When it was here, I think it was in Nashville, and I couldn't go for whatever reason at the time. But that whenever I read his book, and it kind of sparked the Rolling Stones, and then like about a month later, after I finished the book, the girls said, "Oh, we want to write a cookbook with you," and I said, "Oh, how about a Rolling Stones? I could do that. I can pull that out fast, you know." And so actually, the girls were a huge part of contributing recipes and making, the music connect to the recipe. But the fun part was getting them to listen to Rolling Stones songs that are not, Start Me Up
Yeah.
or Jumpin' Jack Flash. So listening to like Monkey Man and some of the other more obscure songs that She's a Rainbow. You don't ever
Yeah.
hear that one on the radio.
You should have
Then they
had
fell
like
in love.
the last time, like THYME.
Yeah, I think I do have something like that. I have to remember what I got. But Happy is one of my favorite songs by the
See,
Stones.
I'm right now on the fly trying to come up with food related Rolling Stones puns, but I can't think of anything that would match 19th Nervous Breakdown.
Oh gosh,
Or have you seen your mother baby standing in the shadow?
yikes.
Have you seen your mother baby standing in the scalloped? I don't know.
Yikes. Oh, well, there's anyway, the Rolling Stones,
Fans on the run, ladies and gentlemen.
the only place you can get free pun.
This is the only place. There are no other podcasts that have ever made puns before. Yeah.
Excellent.
And there's no way you can fact check that.
True.
Yeah. So
Well,
you'll have to take my word as fact.
I just fact checked it.
No, you didn't. Why would anyone take the time to fact check Fans on the Run? It's not worth their time. Actually, this is always my favorite bit because this is where it gets opinionated, and I like it when it gets fun like this. So I want to ask you, what is your favorite Beatles song?
Well,
And Tom Hunyadi, if you're listening, I phrased it slightly different than usual because your impression of me still stings. Love you, Tom.
I know, Tom. My favorite Beatles song. So it's very hard because it changes with the situation. So I in my life is, way up there, but I am very, very drawn to I Will. I love that little song. I just think it's precious. But probably the oh my gosh, and I'm gonna mess it up. I'm gonna mess it up because I haven't been listening to the Beatles, but for a while, and I'm getting tired. But
Gasp.
probably my most favorite is "While My Guitar Gently Weeps."
There you go, on brand with the George song. I was waiting for the George song to come in.
Yeah. Well, my husband would be sad to know that that's really my favorite because he thinks "In My Life" is. I mean, that has very meaningful, has meaning because of the people. But "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," that song, the intensity of the song, the bass and the piano and it's it kind of builds, and George's phrasing, I just think is beautiful.
Well, what's your opinion on the stripped down, more kind of acoustic versions on the anthology and the Love album?
I love them, absolutely. And how about have you listened to the Esher demos much? Oh my gosh,
Yes.
I love the Esher demos, and the actually Not Guilty on the Esher demos is another big favorite of mine.
Well, there's some great George songs on the Isha demos. Like
Absolutely.
I can't stop listening to the George version of Sour Milk Sea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Which there, you need to make something about that, like
Sour
sourdough
milk.
sea,
Sour milk.
sourdough sea.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go. See, I'm doing your work for you
Well, I
here.
think you should make it.
Oh no, I don't have talent.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
So now, I always like to ask the flip side of that question. What is your least favorite Beatles song?
Oh, let's see. This is going to sound really snotty, but it would have to be a Paul song.
Okay, no, that's not snotty at all. That's usually what my answer is.
Um, Probably. Oh my gosh, let me think. I don't have a list of.
Honey Pie?
Oh, I do hate that song. Ugh. Um,
It's one of the songs that when I'm listening to the Beatles Sirius XM channel, if it comes on, it's like, and now I will switch to channel 21 instead.
I really don't like Obla Di Obla Da.
Okay, I see. I find myself defending that one a lot because a lot of people hate it. I can see why, but it's one of the better Paul songs on the White Album, in my opinion. Again,
Ugh.
I hate saying it, but that's not saying much. Saying it's one of the better Paul songs on the White Album.
That's great. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's probably. And oddly too, one song and I am a terrible Beatle fan for this, but Love Me Do doesn't do anything for me.
oh
I'm
man.
wicked. I am a wicked woman.
Oh, my heart is crushed. I love that song. Nah, I can see it though.
It's just like
There's not much. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It just has charm though.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to keep it in context. That was the first one. And there was
Although it suffers a little when you consider that "P.S. I Love You" is the B side, and that's probably one of the most
uh,
early, or that's one of the most advanced early Beatles songs. Careful what you say about that song.
it's a great song.
I can sense some sarcasm there.
No, no, no. Those were groundbreaking.
Yeah, you can say you don't like it if you wish.
Yeah, it is not my bag. It's not my bag, but I was more. I mean, I really, really got, and I believe the the revolver that really revolver really got under my skin, and I think the um, the transition from the syrupy I love her, she loves me, that getting out of that and transitioning into revolver just really is what grabbed my attention. And you had Robert Rodriguez on, I think, last week. His book
That I
about
did.
revolver is amazing. And so revolver was really the album that resonated the most for me.
You read my mind there because I think you knew that was the next question I was going to ask.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
I
going to
did
be
not.
what's your favorite Beatles album, and
All
you
right.
answered correctly.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I win the
I
prize.
all. Oh, you win the prize of my affection. Um, I always like joking that there's a correct answer, and there is a correct answer. It's Revolver. Now I notice people say
I
like, "Ooh,
agree.
the White Album," "Ooh, Abbey Road," "Ooh, Rubber Soul." No, it's
Uh,
Revolver.
Revolver. If you're listening to the Beatles from from the beginning. If you listen to all their albums, I interviewed a guy. I had a radio show on Blog Talk Radio for a lot of years, and I interviewed a guy that was in a Beatles tribute band, and he's older than me. And so I said, what did you hear whenever we were talking about Revolver? I said, what was your reaction? And he said, whenever we put the album on, he remembers going to the store and buying it, putting it onto the record player, and put the needle on, and you heard a 1, 2, 3. He's like, what is that? Nobody, they never ever had, it sounded like it was a mistake.
Yeah,
and
it sounded like someone didn't splice the tape properly.
Yeah, no one counted in a song. Everything was very clean and neat.
What about I Saw Her Standing There?
But that was different.
Yeah.
This was very
1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1,
right.
2.
Yeah, you got it. There you go. So
do I win a prize?
You do, for the best intro. What's the word? Impression.
There we go. My life is complete.
Absolutely. But yeah, and Revolver made the Beatles were adults.
It's the perfect midway point.
Absolutely. And Taxman actually too was the first topical song that the Beatles recorded. Every song before that had just been about relationships. This is
the first one to name drop prime ministers and members of parliament. This was
serious. The Beatles were getting taxed almost 95%, and they were angry. And leave it to George to be the one to stand up and say, hey, we're getting screwed here. And this is who's doing it. And it's a groovy song, but all the songs on there, she said.
We'll get to she said in a minute, because there's something a bit further there. If you catch my drift.
I think so.
So I'll ask you, what is your least favorite Beatles album?
Ooh, least favorite Beatles album.
Keep in mind there is also a correct answer here.
I don't know if I have a least favorite, because I do love them all.
Or one that you find yourself listening to the least.
It might be, and I'm wicked. I'm a wicked woman. I know that. But it might be Abbey Road.
Really?
Yeah. It's just kind of boring. And maybe I've just listened to it so much that it just...
See, I find myself... I see where you're coming from. But at this moment, I find myself disagreeing completely, because I used to really love Abbey Road, and then I went through a period where I thought it was boring, like the whole medley kind of drags. But then, like, songs I used to not like at all in the medley have suddenly become some of my favorites, like the song Sun King. I would always skip the song.
Oh, I would
always, but then I listened to it fully finally. Because I don't think I'd actually listened far enough into the song for it to actually start like, here comes the sun. And, as a big fan of Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, I love the Albatross influence.
Right.
But I get where some of that album can be a little repetitive.
And yeah, it seemed very perfect.
Yeah.
And I love it. I do love it. And Sun King is one of my favorite songs.
Actually, you just touched on a point that I don't think anyone else has ever touched on this show. Abbey Road, I've had people say on the show that it is the best sounding Beatles album, like sonically, but it may be a little too polished.
Yeah,
Especially coming off the heels of Let It Be, where it was a dumpster fire, and they didn't even release it until Alan Klein's like, hey, we need money. We
right.
have to put out this new movie for United Artists. Hey, Phil Spector, why don't you make something out of this?
Right. Yeah. But what's
Although
your least favorite?
so
Is there an answer?
my least favorite's Let It Be.
Okay. I
Yeah,
like I like the Let It Be Unplugged or whatever it is.
Let It Be Naked.
Yeah.
I really like some of the songs. Like I can't live without I Me Mine. I can't live without like actually no, that's the only one that sticks out in my mind.
I like Two of Us. Is that it?
I can take it or leave it.
And there's a John song on there. I can't remember what it is, but I really
Is
enjoy.
I've Got
But
a Feeling on Let It
yes,
Be? I
yes,
keep forgetting. Yeah,
I do.
okay, no, I like I Got a Feeling.
Yeah, I I like the story behind it that they were trying to go back to their roots, and I can hear that,
Yeah.
and that's why I do enjoy listening to it. But um, this whole show just reminds me I need to listen to the Beatles some more. I I just am kind of not boring, but I'm working so much all the time that I just have kind of gotten out of the routine of
Yeah.
listening to music.
Well, hopefully this'll snap you back in a little.
Yeah, I'm going to be listening to the Revolver tonight.
Of
Not the
course.
Revolver. That sounded
Yeah.
really nerdy. I'm listening to Revolver later today.
Yeah. Well, and actually, since you mentioned another band, and I mentioned another band, I want to ask you kind of some opinions about those. What's your favorite Kiss album?
Mm. Well, when I was growing up, I had Alive, Kiss Alive, and Alive 2, and Platinum. But I think it's Rock and Roll Over that has some awesome some awesome songs. There's some awesome Peter Criss songs.
Oh,
One is
that's the
called,
one with Hard Luck Woman, I think.
yeah, I love Hard
That's
Luck
on.
Woman. He's got a song called Baby Driver,
Yeah,
and I just love that song. Nothing to Lose. Uh, I really they had a very kind of a blues
mhm,
and kind of a big band. He was a big band
yeah.
trained drummer.
He was quite
And
jazzy.
yeah, and so I do like a lot of their music. They get laughed at. A lot of people laugh at them. And when I was a kid, everybody's laughing at me because everybody thought that they were Satan worshipers and that girls shouldn't like that. And I was like, whatever. I like that band.
Yeah.
So
Uh, I think I like Alive 2 more than I like Alive 1.
yeah, I think so. I think, but those songs were all recorded in different cities and pasted
Yeah.
together, and
And then, like,
you
at
know,
the end of the album, they don't even have live songs. It's just
right?
some
It's
random
recorded
studio.
songs.
There's a
There's
Dave Clark 5
a Dave
cover.
Clark Five song. I was getting ready to say that. Any way you want it.
Yeah. Well, actually, that kind of,
Awesome.
in a roundabout way, introduced me to the Dave Clark 5, who are now, again, one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah. Although, I do have to say, I do prefer the Dave Clark 5 original, now that I've heard, because it somehow sounds even more hard rocking than the 1977 Kiss version, this
That's funny.
1965 Dave Clark 5 song.
That's awesome.
And,
Well, that's the kind of thing that the people didn't give Kiss a whole lot of credit for. They had more appreciation for music than people gave them credit for. They were doing some outrageous things just to get attention and to get money.
Oh, yes.
There's no question. But there was some musical value underneath all of that too. So
If Kiss didn't wear the makeup and didn't do the huge stage shows, and they would have been in the same league as, the same way people think of like Aerosmith.
Or, well, it would be like Pure Prairie League, ABBA.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I love ABBA.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm legally obligated to defend ABBA.
It's in your contract.
Yeah, it's not even just because I live in Waterloo.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's what I thought when I saw your address. I'm like, ABBA. Oh.
I was defeated. You won the war.
That is one of my favorite ABBA songs, by the way.
Mine too.
That's another no. That's my other favorite.
And last on this tangent of opinions, what is your favorite Stones album?
And that's hard because
do you want me to split it in two, like favorite later Stones and favorite early Stones? Because they're very different bands.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they did a blues album a couple of years ago, and I really love it because they were a blues band.
They were.
The Beatles had some blues influence, but the Rolling Stones band was all on the premise of blues. They were all blues songs. And so I really liked the blues album that they put out a couple of years ago. And that would probably be one of my favorite. I can't think of the name, but it's the Satan
yes.
table with the eating and the beggars
banquet.
Yes.
And I thought you were about to say Their Satanic Majesty's Request.
I do like that one too.
That one, I always get laughed at when I say that's my favorite Stones album. They're like, you like that? Their Satanic Majesty's Request? That album's garbage. It's like, no, you shut your mouth. You can go listen to your Midnight Rambler and your Brown Sugar, and I'll go listen to my 2,000 Light Years from Home and Gomper.
Oh, yes. And Ace Frehley did a cover of that 2000
Man. No. That was actually, I'll say I heard that one before I heard the Stones version.
Me too, actually. But the thing about Stones albums, and I listened to all of them whenever I was writing the cookbook for the Rolling Stones. We are very spoiled as Beatles fans because we can listen to an entire album and enjoy darn near every darn song. Almost every song on a Beatles album we've heard before.
Yeah.
Now, when you compare that to a Rolling Stones album, it's very different because there will be like 2 songs that you've heard before, and some of the other songs are just flat weird.
Yeah.
And not as enjoyable. And most of it's okay, And I think there might be a certain type of person that drinks and, does other things. And then that makes them want to listen to more Rolling Stones music. I don't know. But that's my crazy, wicked opinion.
I'll just say second. Actually, no, this is my favorite. Their Satanic Majesties is number 2. My favorite is the British version of the album Aftermath. Love it. With Mother's Little Helper and Stupid Girl and Out of Time and I'll
have to listen to that one tonight too.
Well,
the British version.
Again, this is another difference between the Beatles and the Stones, where there's a lot of arguments between like, oh, the British catalog, no, the American catalog. The thing with the British, or I'd say the American Stones catalog is more enjoyable than the British catalog. Like, it's not even like where the British ones... It's not even like with the British ones where there are songs that you recognize on the albums. Like, oh, on Beatles for Sale, oh, look, there's 8 Days a Week. Oh, there's I Don't Want to Spoil the Party, so I'll go. There's Every Little Thing. It's like, oh, here's Out of Our Heads. I don't recognize any of these songs. But enough with that. I want to ask you, how did you get involved with Jude and the She Said show? Try saying that 10 times fast.
Yes, that is. I don't think I want to do that. So Jude and I became friends about a year or so after my friend passed away, and we were introduced to each other by Dave Bedford, who lives in school and has lots of books. And I was
a previous Fans on the Run guest.
Okay, he is awesome, and he was at
Dave
Abbey
is
Road
such a
on the
nice
river.
bloke.
He was at Abbey Road on the river, and I was there with the girls, and told him about my book, and he says, "Hey, I know someone that you might enjoy knowing," and it was Jude. And so he introduced us, and we became friends, and we've been good friends ever since. So that's been many years ago. And so Jude and I have done a lot of writing together. Like she would write on my blog a lot of times. And I had a Blog Talk radio show for several years, and she would be a guest on there. And so, just a couple of years ago, I said, oh, I have the perfect name for our podcast. And because I'm so addicted to Revolver, I said it would be perfect for us to have. We've got to have a podcast, and it has to be called She Said. So
I've tried to stop doing this because I've realized how annoying it was. Like, every time in an episode, it's like, oh, here he gets the guitar and tries to play a riff. Like, no. That's all.
Nice. Very nice.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
See, this is why I don't get the guitar out anymore.
It was 100 times better than what I could do. I don't even have a guitar, so there you go. But
you're one step ahead of me.
I know where you were coming from. I could hear it. So,
for the uninitiated, what is She Said about?
Well, John Lennon happened to be at a party in Hollywood, and there was a gentleman there named...
No, I mean your show.
Oh.
You're gonna talk about Peter Fonda, weren't you?
I've drank too much of this energy drink, and I am becoming the Miss Beatles encyclopedia. Okay, she said podcast.
Peter Fonda's probably listening to this like, what the hell? They were about to talk about me.
I think he died.
Did he?
I think he did. We'll have to.
Oh.
Anybody listening can confirm that.
Either way, I think we just started the Peter Fonda is dead theory, if he isn't dead.
Pretty sure he's dead. Or he's dead to me. I don't know. But yeah.
Oh?
No, I'm joking. So, yeah. I think he passed away not long ago.
Oh.
But, yeah, very much we discuss and debate different Beatle topics, generally John and George, many times.
He is dead. I just checked.
Okay. Thank you for confirmation of that. Rest in peace. He knew what it was like to be dead. So.
Oh, man.
We have a lot of guests on our podcast as well. We had Angie McCartney on this year, Angie and Ruth. We've had Elliot Elliot. I don't remember his last name at this instant. So Elliot was the lead guitarist for the band The Cars from the
Elliot
late
Easton?
Elliot Easton. There we go. Thank you. Hey, you could be my side person to keep me on track here. So Elliot Easton has been on a couple of times. He has a new band. They're going to be on our show coming up pretty soon.
The Chesterfield Kings.
No, it is the Empty Hearts.
The Empty Hearts. Now I'm that was Andy Babiuk, who is also his. Yeah, I had him on the show. I got the Empty Hearts.
Right.
Which now I feel bad, so I will go plug the Empty Hearts second album. The Empty Hearts second album is out in stores now. Go buy it.
That's right. And I think I recently bought that. But okay, so we've had other pretty notable people on the show, but I forgot my notes.
Yeah, that's
so,
okay.
They're notable.
They are notable, but the notes are not accessible.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyways, could you please tell the lovely audience out there where they can find your cookbooks?
Oh, absolutely. You can find them at Amazon.com. I also have a website that is laneastagg.com, LaneaStagg.com. And it has all 4 of my cookbooks. I have the original recipe records. I have Recipe Records, the 60s edition, Recipe Records, a culinary tribute to the Beatles, and the 4th cookbook is called The Rolling Scones, Let's Spin the Bite Together.
But
I know. It's so great.
Oh, this is I don't use this word often. This has been a hoot.
That's great. That is one of Jude Kessler's least favorite words in the world. That's why I cackled when you said it. But I say it too. She's like, what does hoot mean anyway? I don't know. I thought I only...
Okay, fine. It's been a hoot and a half.
A hoot and a half. Ooh. I didn't know they said those kinds of things in Canada.
Well, I don't know if they do. I've said things.
Well, it's been delightful to chat with you today, Ethan. I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Likewise. I'm really glad we were able to make this work.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for your patience.
Oh, no. Thank you for patience. Anyone who deals with me needs, like, the patience of a saint.
You seem pretty chill to me. I deal with a lot of people that push my buttons. So, but I enjoy talking about the Beatles once in a while because it is kind of not. It's kind of there's not a lot of people that I can talk about the Beatles with or music.
And surprisingly, there aren't that many podcasts about the Beatles. You would think there'd be more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Surprisingly. There's only about 500.
Gosh, yeah, and you'd think there'd be like 501.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ethan.
Thank you. And to everyone else out there listening, thank you. And you can go home now.
Fans on the Run is produced by Ethan Alexanian. Additional voiceovers by Richard Phillip. This has been a Showtown production.